Today's market call is presented by CME Group, where risk meets opportunity, and FactSet, financial data and analytics powered by tomorrow. February 13th, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Bill Hockman, Nathan, Guy Adami here. Amanda just texted me. She said, what word did she say?
Barf, but do not. She
said
explain,
barf.
Do not explain why.
It's 1 o'clock, as I mentioned. It is market call. And although it looks like another, somewhat benign day, Nathan, there are a lot of interesting things taking place. How are you, by the way?
I'm doing great. This is on the, I guess we call it Valentine's Eve. Is this a holiday that you participate in or something like that?
Valentine's.
It's ish. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is the eve of
You know why it's
Valentine's
important? If you have a partner and you have not made plans,
right, you're screwed.
Ish. You know what I mean?
No, you are screwed.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get dinner reservations, try again.
Yeah.
We are actually getting, not that anybody cares.
I would love to know.
We're going to Washington, D.C. tomorrow.
Oh, really?
So the drive down is
where will you eat at Washington, D.C.?
I don't know. I think the Lilster made reservations someplace.
Okay. Lil's.
Shout out to Lil's.
All right. You started by saying a benign day. It's interesting.
Look.
Let's do yesterday morning. We spent some time talking about it. CPI. Yep. PPI.
Hot.
The knee-jerk reaction, 1% lower in the S&P yesterday on a hot number. Today, we have this data that you might have expected would have been testing those lows. You put two numbers together like that, maybe it makes a bit of a trend. So we have the S&P up 45 bips. We have the NASDAQ up about 75 bips. What are you thinking here, guy?
When I saw the PPI number, I'm like, all that did to me was reiterate or galvanize or reinforced all the things that I thought, that inflation is a problem. And then I'm watching during the day people explain it away, and then I'm watching the TLT rally.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, maybe the TLT rally is just off of an oversold condition from yesterday. We'll see. But I don't care. No economist can walk. Steve Leisman and all his economist friends can walk in here and try to explain how this wasn't actually as bad as it looked. It's as bad as it looked.
Yeah.
So to me, all it does is just reinforce my notion that rates are going higher. Obviously not today, but we'll see how that plays out.
All right. Before we get to yields, let's talk about what's moving macro. Guy.
We have a nice little slide.
Yeah, there it is. Amanda's. Is
that middle one? Did she make that herself?
No, that's like stock photo. You know what I mean? That's kind of like she probably just was looking through a bunch
President Trump and Vladimir Putin together, but that's an old stock photo because that didn't happen yesterday.
That might have been of July 2018 in Helsinki. That's probably the last time.
Finland. Have you been there?
No.
U.S. tariffs ahead, inflation. So what's moving markets? That's what's moving. Apparently, I think the market is taking some solace in the fact that maybe this Russia-Ukraine war will be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
We can debate whether or not it's been resolved for the right. It doesn't matter. I think that's the market is taking its cues from that. Tariffs ahead. I don't know if people can figure out what tariffs mean, quite frankly, because seemingly the narrative changes every day. And we talked about inflation. That will continue to be a problem. So you have these sort of conflicting data points that the market is trying to decipher.
Well, the thing about Ukraine is interesting. When you think about industrial production over here,
IP,
and I know this sounds horrible, but that war going on now for 3 years, there's a certain amount of activity here. Okay. I just want to say that.
No.
And I don't mean to sound insensitive.
You don't sound insensitive. Now, if you want to go back in history, if you want to play the game, and I'm not looking to give anybody a history lesson here.
Let's do it.
But remember what was going on in the late 1920s into the 1930s. United States was in the throes of a depression.
Yeah.
See what I did?
Bueller.
The way to get out of it is, and a lot of people think, and I'm not necessarily one of these people, but a lot of the people think that FDR sort of saw Pearl Harbor coming, did not warn, wanted to get us into a conflict to get us out of a depression. Now, you go back in your history books and read a little bit about it. So when you say that wars, generally speaking, are great for industrial production, you're right. You're not being insensitive.
Yeah.
It's factually true.
But it's also the situation where it's not on the front page anywhere of anything. All those fear about nat gas and, so I know it sucks. I think everyone would like to see a peaceful
100%.
resolution of this sort of stuff. But it's interesting, the knee-jerk reaction here, especially when it seems like, and this is not editorial on my part, it seems like that the Trump administration, or Trump in particular, is leaning far closer to the Russian prerogatives than he is the Ukrainian. Now, you could say, okay, the euro's rallying right now, Russian stocks are rallying, the ruble's rallying, all this sort of stuff. But if we give concessions to Putin, to Russia about NATO, okay, and that's not good for our security, and we're likely to have another dust up. So it is what it is. Let's see how this plays out. The tariff thing, Guy, to your point, is like, this is all uncertainty. I mean, let's be frank, it's not going to be dialed up, right? Like, and even though as these headlines week over week, the markets are reacting to them less. Is that fair?
Less. Yeah, we talked about the diminishing returns in terms of the headlines and what the market does. Agreed. And I don't know how it gets ratcheted up. The only way it gets ratcheted up is if I think China ratcheted it up and then we did something in retaliation. That to me is the outcome. But here we are. The market's doing what it's doing. But it's interesting. If you want to throw up the E-mini futures, we're still in this sort of bit of a pennant formation. And despite the fact that there's some strength today, nothing's been resolved. I will tell you, I think it gets resolved to the downside. I don't think that's a mystery to anybody that watches, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, so Carter actually drew these lines on the SPY. I think it was yesterday on Worth Charting, and obviously we've been doing the same thing on this little flag pennant, whatever you want to call it. The consolidation is it's interesting. You do see a couple volatile days that kind of touch that downtrend ish. You know what I mean? After that kind of steep rally that we had, and then that brief new high. So again, we're coming out of earnings season. The macro is in focus here. The question is, what is the thing that causes the S&P to break out? It's a little downtrend, but to make a new high and then establish a new range. You see that 200-day moving average down there at like 57.10 or so, I think, from the prior highs. What was the prior high, guys? 61.50 or something like that?
I'll tell you exactly. The prior high in the S&P was, as you continue to talk, 61.28.
Right. And so if you just, like if we had a retracement back below, and I think you want to look at that November low, Guy, so that gets you basically the 200-day moving average, and, back towards 5,600, you have about an 8% peak to trough decline.
A lot of people think that sort of makes a lot of sense for a myriad of different reasons. I'll tell you, the VIX doesn't seem to be buying into what we're saying, because as we're sitting here right now,
under 16
in a pretty meaningful way. And this is what we talked about earlier in the week, and I'll probably bring it up on Fast Money tonight. You have a VIX 15.5, 16, let's just say, and then you have individual names and not small companies moving up and down 15 or 20%. And we've seen at least a dozen of those types of moves over the last week and a half. So you have individual stock volatility, but clearly the broader market doesn't care.
Yeah, a lot of volatility, I think, has happened within the NASDAQ. Let's pull up the E-mini, the NASDAQ 100 futures here. And, our friend Doug Cass at streetpro.com, and obviously Seabreeze, he was making this point this morning. We've been talking about the NASDAQ too. It is yet to confirm the new highs in the S&P 500. A big part of that is obviously you see some of the Mag 7 or Fateful 8 down on the year. You have Microsoft down the year. You have Google down the year. You have Apple down on the year. NVIDIA is unchanged on the year. Tesla's down in the year. Broadcom is unchanged in the year. So the only two of the Fateful 8 that you have up is Amazon is up, 3.5%, and Meta is up 23%. We're going to spend some more time on Meta over the next couple of weeks, by the way, because this one is really curious. This one now feels like the really concentrated trade in the AI space. And there was a really great article. We'll put it actually in the market matrix that drops after the close today. If you are not following Market
Matrix, where can you get the Market Matrix?
In your favorite podcast store. Let me just tell you what this is really quickly, if this is new to you. Guy and I and our team, we curate probably about 10 of what we think are the most important market and business stories. We have them summarized in the Perplexity, and then we put them into a voice bot. And there you go. You have under 10 minutes, the biggest stories in the market, read to you by our main man, Brunson, who is our voice bot. And you know what? You don't have to listen to Guy and me. So go get that.
I don't know if anybody watched the Knick game last night.
Yeah.
He's a stone cold assassin.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Hockman, who played the game, will tell you.
You saw the Celtics went into the most famous arena in the world
the
other night.
Knicks.
They beat the Knicks. But what would you say about Jason Tatum?
Can play. Probably the best. It's funny. I don't think Duke has had a lot of great pros.
Yeah.
For a long time, I thought Grant Hill was probably the best guy to come out.
You were not a Leitner guy.
I like Christian Laettner.
Really?
Oh, Christian Leitner's a bad. No, I'm not messing around.
Bill's shaking it off.
Christian Laettner,
dream team.
He could friggin' play.
Dream team.
You ask the guys on Michigan who played against Laettner, like
the Fab
that
Five.
homie can play.
I
mean, he was not scared.
Yeah.
He did not back down. And he, people thought because he went to Duke, he was some elite. He grew up like dirt poor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Christian Laettner.
Won't back down. You got time for that?
What?
Huh?
Tom Petty?
Yeah.
No, that song sucks.
All right, let's get back to this.
It's funny.
That was my bad. We were talking about Brunson, Market Matrix. Go follow it in your favorite podcast store.
It just goes to, you just say a word to me.
I know.
And it iterates.
It's fine. We're good. All
Anyhow.
Right, Guy, let's get to the yields now, because this is the one, and maybe Amanda can pull up the 2-day chart here, because this is really what we're talking about here. CPI into PPI. She's going to bring it up. 10-year yield. We had that.
Nothing happened.
Like nothing happened.
No, I mean,
all right, explain it away, because you said all the economists, they come on and this and that or whatever.
Yesterday, there's no question that CPI caught a lot of people off guard, and the move in yields made a lot of sense to me yesterday. Today, PPI, in my opinion, was equally hot, and now you have people sort of explaining it away, talking about seasonality.
Yeah.
Liz Young Thomas talked about that
yesterday,
the other day.
Yeah.
So I think that people, again, they're taking some solace in the fact that maybe it's sort of a one-off. This is what I will tell you in terms of the TLT chart, if Amanda wants to throw that up. This downtrend that's been in place, that we drew the trend line on and we talked about, is still in place. And I will say for the 100th time, I'm probably one of the few people that think TLT is going to test the levels we saw last fall. So there's your trend line, like a boss, as they say. We're bounced today. We'll see if we go back to the trend line. I don't think we will. I think we're going to get down to, if you want to extend that out to 24, the October 2024 lows, which was 82 or so-ish.
Yeah, let's pull up the CME Fed Watch tool, because this might be instructive, Guy, of where I guess market participants think the Fed funds rate is going to. So if we look at March, it's a near certainty that they will not change the Fed funds rate. It's 4.5% on the upper bound. It's about 86.5% probability they will do nothing in May. Okay, so there's no April meeting. And then when we get to June, it's basically suggesting that there is I want to say 40-some% probability of a 25 basis point cut. So you get the point. Like, we've seen these kind of ratcheted down, maybe 50 basis points is what's priced in here. You think, though, that could quickly evaporate if we have a couple more hot prints?
If you're listening to these, I understand why people think that there's more to come. There's no, from what I can tell, cuts.
Yeah.
From what I see, and from what I mean, what you tell me, you have a stock market at an all-time high. The unemployment rate is 4%. GDP has been trending in the right direction. There's no geopolitical stuff that seemingly is affecting us. You tell me why we have to. What is the reason? What is the compelling reason to cut rates?
Listen,
there is none.
Yeah. I mean,
the market, the economy has figured out how to deal. So just let it play itself out.
I think that's a really good point. So last year, GDP was 2.8%. It was above what a lot of folks coming into that year thought it was going to be. I think the expectations are about 2.5% this year. So if you say to yourself, okay, we have 4.5 Fed funds, we have basically 4.55 10-year, we have inflation, let's just call CPI 3.1%. You know what I mean? We have crude oil stuck in this kind of 70 to 80 range or so. And the economy, if we start outperforming GDP expectations, to your point, there is actually zero chance, or zero reason, I guess, not chance, zero reasons to cut rates.
Yes. Still have a housing market.
Can we do this? I don't know if Amanda can do this. We used to do this chart. If you go back over the last 40 years, okay, and you see what the average of the 10-year of the 10-year, where it was in Fed funds and that sort of thing. I mean, we lived in this kind of mid single digits, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So the economy, if it is changing because of generative AI, did we talk about this yesterday on the market call with Liz?
All the time.
Then we might have to get comfortable with higher yields and higher inflation.
We've become so complacent and so reliant upon, we can't live without lower rates. We have politicians talking about the needs for that. That's self-serving, and it doesn't really help the long term. I mean, if you really want to get this economy on stronger footing, on terra firma, allow the rates to continue to move higher. We will figure it out. Anyway, that's my mini rant. The next thing we have to, no,
it's not a rant. I mean, it just seems like everybody and their mother wants yields to go lower. You know what I'm saying?
But they say because that'll make mortgage rates go down. Actually, no.
we didn't talk about the housing market though, actually. But when we just no. When we put all that, I'm putting.
No, I mean the housing market is still hanging in there. So and then if you we're going down this rabbit hole. CRB index, as I have mentioned, is at a 15-year high, and that's all the things sort of ex crude oil. The other indices like the Goldman Sachs Commodities Index, heavy crude oil. The CRB, not as much. And there are components of that which are making all-time highs right before our eyes that we never talk about because nobody cares. That's very inflationary. So again, don't be in a hurry. Don't wish this rate cut to happen because I'm telling you it's not going to be good.
Well, let's take it a step forward with the tariff stuff. Okay, so let's assume that the stuff with China, sticks, but Mexico and Canada and the Eurozone kind of goes away, that sort of thing. The Chinese are getting ready to launch a whole bunch of more stimulus, right? And so that's one of the things that could also cause some inflation. And then again, if we kind of continue to try to diversify our supply chains, that's also going to be inflation. What are you looking at?
All
right, maybe Jacob can pull this up. I just want to set this up. I just put it in our chat here. I thought this would be really funny. So let's pull up the first one.
That's problematic.
So I was at a place called the Brindle Room in the East Village. This was
Brindle Room.
It's a great little restaurant.
So Brindle, if you remember in the movie The Fly, that was like Brindle. That was the guy's name.
Yeah, you know who the actor was?
Yeah, the Jeff Goldblum.
Bang. So maybe Jacob can pull up this first picture that I said I got this pickle on my plate at the Brindle Room, and it's pretty fascinating. Hopefully he can bring it up. He's leaving me hanging. And then I was with my buddy, and we decided just to build a snowman out of this thing. It's kind of fun. I mean, I just thought we'd show that thing off. Maybe they can.
So this is about 3:00 on a Saturday. You're with one of your homies, and you guys are drinking
brewskis.
Drinking brewskis.
No, I'm
watching the game.
I'm looking down.
Hey, let's watch the game.
Hold on. I'm looking down at my plate. No, go to the other one first. The other one, okay? That pickle on the top.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's a face. Matter of fact. I mean, that's the craziest thing. So then we decided to use the other pickles to make a little snowman. And then we use whatever that is. It's a little chopped lettuce.
Right.
And then we did the hair and the arms.
You guys were yucking it up.
I thought it was amazing. I just thought, go to the other one. They don't have that. Look at that. I'm looking at that thing.
You puffed the Magic Dragon a little bit before that?
No.
I'm sorry. You were talking and then this popped up. I thought we had questions from the audience.
We might
these pictures pop up.
All right, let's move. Sorry about that. So that's the yield argument. They want mortgage rates lower. It's your point.
I understand that. But what has happened to mortgage rates since the Fed cut rates? They've only gone up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and credit card rates. All right, let's look at the dollar really quickly because we're seeing some weakness. I think the Dixie was 110 about a month ago. Here we are. It's about 107-ish, 107 and change. So you're seeing a little downward pressure here. The euro we know is 50% of the Dixie here. So that's rallying off some of the geopolitical stuff that we talked about. Guy, we got to go to gold.
Yeah,
it's something we talk about a lot. Dollar was going up, gold was going up. Dollar goes down, gold goes up, right?
And there've been now all of a sudden there are Wall Street Journal articles about gold and about gold deliveries from London to New York, and everybody's starting to say, wait a second, what is going on here? There's clearly something happening because gold historically, I mean, if you think about it, the stock market's an all-time high. You wouldn't think gold would be at an all-time high as well, because typically you would think they'd move inversely. They're not. Gold continues to make this move. And as you said, regardless of whether or not rates or the dollar goes up or down, gold's hanging in there like a champ. Now, this is a nice channel that you've drawn. It suggests that maybe we touched the top end of it and can back and fill. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But let's see how this plays out, because you know where I stand. Gold is absolutely in play.
Yeah, and I don't want to wait here. You know how impatient I can be here. So if I'm looking at this gold, I'm looking at 29.45. It's just off of that all-time high of just the other day here. So here we are, 29.25 actually, and so that high was 29.45. You know what? If you wanted to take the other side of this thing, you think maybe it kind of kisses that uptrend or almost gets there. I mean, we're not far off, right? So let's see how it trades into tomorrow. Let's see what the dollar continues to do, because I would suggest, Guy, if the Dixie is going down to 106 or something like that, gold's going higher. So I guess my point is maybe you wait another day or so. But if I were to sell this in and around here, I'd look at that all-time high made just 2 trading days ago.
Your stop.
That's your stop. And then my first, what was that high going back to October, November? Is that like 2,800 or something?
The middle of the band, that little gap is the same as that second point on the uptrend line.
Yeah. So I'd look, I'd look to kind of play this down to 2,800. And, again, like, might that be a little bit of an overshoot given what you think is the likelihood of demand for this thing? X fundamentals, I guess.
But if you catch that trade, if it were to go to that level, then in our business, we do something called buying the double.
You would cover the short and you get
buying
long.
The
cover
double.
The short and get long.
That's lingo.
It is lingo. All right. Well, we just want to kind of focus on that a little bit. Let's go to nerd gold for a second.
This is.
You don't like
that?
No,
I don't even know. I'm a nerd.
Correct.
I know. I honestly,
I just confirmed it.
In
correct.
Kindergarten, I have a picture of me with a briefcase going to kindergarten. So I was born. Bill's laughing. I don't know what's so effing funny.
It's funny.
I was born old. I'm a effing nerd.
We know.
But I have no problem with that.
I know.
Because I'm a nerd that will kick your effing, not you, but I'll kick somebody's. I have no problem dropping somebody. So it's sort of a weird thing. I'm a nerd, though, with an edge.
You are an edgy. He calls women that he likes
edgy broads.
This is probably the biggest compliment Guy could pay
100%.
To anybody. You're an edgy broad.
If I call you an edgy now, yes. That's the ultimate. That's the highest compliment.
I get it. All right, let's look at the.
Anyway, back to the nerd gold.
Well, I think this is interesting again because we're talking about the dollar. Why does crypto supposedly, do what it's supposed to do? I mean, store value, inflation hedge, debasement of the U.S. dollar, but it's kind of stuck in the mud here, right?
Yeah.
You see that breakout level. We talked about it a bunch. It's 75,000 or something like that. You see the 200-day moving average lined up there. I think there's a tape bomb that lives out there that the crypto community is very disappointed in. Whatever the regulatory comes out, the fact that they're probably not going to be buying Bitcoin and putting it on the treasuries balance sheet. And then to your point, Guy, do you test that 80,000, which was that gap level on November 6th?
You better. So I'll say this. I agree with you 100%.
Except there's an except.
No, there's no except.
Okay.
And we've talked about this. And I don't know what it potentially could mean to the broader market if Bitcoin were to go and test those levels. But I will tell you it won't be good because I think there's going to be a cascade effect. And I'll say this.
Because of leverage?
Because of leverage. You did use my word.
By the way, in the chat, do you guys like Guy's use of the term leverage?
Leverage. I say it all the time.
The pronunciation. I know. I call it leverage.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
It's like you're friends with Wilf. Yeah, I like
Wilfred
Wilf as well. You guys are close. He says aluminium.
Yeah, he's English.
No, but do me a favor, Jacob. Do me a favor. Cut and paste the word aluminum.
Yeah.
And just the
word. Do you know what they call a garage?
Huh?
A garage.
A garage. No, but at least it's the same amount of syllables. Like they just add shit in for aluminium. Like that's not. And so Jacob will do that. In the meantime, MicroStrategy is now the name of the company. Yeah. They're up to almost 500,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Their average price now is north of 65,000. They will continue to buy Bitcoin. Every time they buy it, their average price goes up. The price of Bitcoin has been going lower. They will meet somewhere in the middle, and that middle is that line right there at 75,000. If, in fact, that were to happen, I think that's going to trigger a lot of weird shit, not only in Bitcoin and in the strategy, but potentially in the broader equity market. So strap it on, people, because that's where it gets interesting.
Well, I also think that, again, it's kind of hanging in there the way the NASDAQ is, too. And so we've talked about this a lot, the correlations to the NASDAQ. I mean, this was supposed to be something, again, and maybe this was 5-6 years ago. Maybe we're dating ourselves here. But, this was supposed to be something that act inversely to, a lot of risk assets like that. So, again, it trades well-ish, not relative to gold right here. And you kind of make the point all the time that gold is one of the best performing assets, risk assets, if you think about it over, a 5-10 year period. Let's go to the call of the day.
I love this. Can I tell you something, Amanda? Look at this. She's really gotten this graphic down.
Yeah.
I don't know if Timmy did that, but that call of the day.
Yeah.
And then you have, what are these little things called?
Thought
clouds.
All right. So
this, by the way, I admire this call. If I would really admire this call, though, if they lowered the price target to 95, but baby steps, please.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a stock that does not act particularly well. We spent a lot of time on Dell. And by the way, until generative AI,
Dell was nowhere.
We were not talking about Dell. We were not talking about server market share. We were not talking about PCs and the like, massively commoditized. And obviously they had a bit of pricing power, but this is a stock, or this is a company that has 22% gross margins. This is not like some of these companies that have the integration with software platforms in and around their hardware. And, NVIDIA is probably the best example of that, or the fabless semiconductor companies that their components go into the servers, right? PCs and servers have always been a very low margin business. So you got to get some leverage. You got to get a whole host of things have to happen for this thing to kind of trade at a premium to the markets. So they're lowering their price target. I think they think that possibly, some of and you can see the notes right there, all the excitement around building out the servers and data centers, maybe we're kind of on the other side of that.
I think so. Yeah. Now, let's just look at this for a second. 24 buys. Put that back up real quick.
Yeah.
3 holds. So basically everybody's bullish. The lowest price target is 115. It's trading below that right now. If we now put the chart up, and if you want to play a little stock market, you see that August low?
Yeah.
That was about $88. I think that's it was lower than that, but the close was around $88. I think that's where this thing could potentially be headed. And I will say this as well. If you get a disappointment out of NVIDIA, people are going to look around and look for something to sell. This will be one of the first things they sell.
Yeah. So here's the thing. And you tell me, Guy, if this is a value trap. So let's assume that consensus estimates for fiscal 2026, so that's going to be the year that they're in right now. So you're expecting consensus 18% year over year earnings growth, 7% year over year revenue growth, flat margins about 22.5, and it trades at about 12 times earnings. So you say to yourself, okay, there's not a lot of things that they have to get right, you know what I mean, to have this stock moving back towards, that kind of 150 level or something like that. If there's another leg to this generative AI trade, that sort of thing.
And I know you know this. So when you try to put valuations on things it's like trying to put valuations on like Micron and some of these other very cyclical, commoditized things. It's very hard to play that game because it looks cheap one day, and then the next day it's like, wait a second, what just happened?
Well, your point is this is always cheap, just like Micron's always cheap. So
that's not the story. The story is are they the other side of that mountain, of the other side of that build out mountain, and we're going to learn a lot more. So I admire the call. As I said, I'd admire it more if the price target was lower. Maybe that's the first step to then reducing it again. We'll see, but yeah, this is one you absolutely have to watch. And by the way, for you armchair technicians, that 200-day moving average is obviously flattened out and potentially starting to trend lower, which is obviously not good either.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing we'll just say on this is that, this is a company, this is Morgan Stanley, right? So are they getting in front of the rest of the street, which is, I think, one of the reasons why you admire the call, because a lot of folks, they like to stick in the pack. All right, Guy, this is one.
Can I tell you something? Don't be one of those. There's no safety in the pack. You know who likes to pack up those little minnow fish in the middle of the ocean because they figure the barracuda's coming. If I'm in with all 1,000 other my friends, maybe one of those suckers will get hurt. You know what? Stand out and say, come on, MFer. You want me? Here I am right now.
You do know.
Don't be part of the pack.
Minnows don't have brains.
Yeah, of course they have
not brains that actually think about.
No, but everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to dress alike, and everybody wants to be part of a club and part of my gang. And
I don't think you call them. Oh, you mean the people out here, not the minnows?
People, minnows.
Yeah,
we're herd creatures.
Correct.
There are very few people that want to stand out.
Do you know about a lemming?
Lemmings.
Yeah.
Don't be a lemming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what they do?
They go together and
follow each other right off a cliff,
right off the friggin' cliff.
So don't be. That's an expression though used to hear a lot in the markets on trading desks, like all those freaking lemmings. You know what I mean, doing the same thing. I think that's
sometimes
that's the point you're making.
Sometimes you just can't get in the way of the crowd. Remember what was that movie with the lion?
The Lion King.
The Lion King. Remember. What are you laughing at?
No, he's not.
I don't understand what's so funny over
disgusted.
There. No, but in The Lion King, remember all like the gazelles and all like the wildebeest and shit, they were stampeding, and like what's the little animal's name? The little lion.
I don't know. I never saw it.
Simba. Like he got up in a tree to get away from them, and then like Scar, the brother.
I don't know.
Sometimes you got to get out of the way of the tribe. But then
I took my kids years ago to see the play, and I fell asleep. I fell asleep. Let's go to the chart of the day, Guy, because this is a little something for you. Every once in a while, we think about the sorts of things that Guy Adami wants.
I love this is such a. It looks like somebody we know. Yeah, you know what?
All right, good.
That's a great.
Look at that.
That is fantastic.
One dog goes one way.
Joe Pesci's, I think, was 83rd birthday the other day.
Nice.
So by the way, that's Martin Scorsese's mother.
I know.
In that
they
movie.
Cut out a whole scene that she was into.
She's
another
brilliant.
scene. I know. He felt really bad saying to her. All right, so let's.
Why don't you bring a nice? I go out with a nice girl every night. I come home to you. Why don't you settle down?
Pesci's the man.
So that's just genius.
So this is kind of speaking to, what you started off by saying. So you got a VIX under 16, obviously that's measuring the volatility of the S&P 500. But these two stocks that we're looking at right here, so AppLovin, and Trade Desk. So Trade Desk is a platform for digital advertising. It's kind of one-stop shop. And then AppLovin is something very different, but it is consumer facing. It's actually a platform that, digital companies or gamers, they use to kind of fan engagement and exposure for their platforms and the like. But one stock, like you said, the AppLovin opened up 30-some%. Trade Desk, and these are all after earnings, down 30-some%. That sort of dispersion is fascinating because Trade Desk, not a small company. AppLovin, you might have never heard of this stock. It's a $165 billion market cap company. So, Guy, when you see this sort of action, like what does it make you think here?
Well, it's funny. Yesterday you got mad at me because I brought up that Mark Minervi guy.
I didn't get mad. I love it.
No.
Why?
But I could tell. And that was the guy that now
upstart.
Pull up I'm doing this for a reason. So pull up an UPST chart.
Yeah.
And it was October 2021. And Tyler Matheson was interviewing this guy, and this stock never saw a downtick. And he was talking about the technical breakout. And
let's isolate 2021.
You got to go there.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not even making this up. On the show, Tyler said to him, benign question, well, what do they do? He didn't know the answer, which is fine. A lot of people just trade on momentum. He should have said, I have no friggin' idea what they do. All I know is the chart looks good. That's the same thing that's going on now with this. I'm just telling you, this AppLovin is sort of 2021's upstart. So just keep an eye on this because the math didn't make sense for that company. The math doesn't make sense for this company.
So I just want to say one thing about that. Okay. So the company keeps putting up these, let's go back to AppLovin for a second, these ridiculous quarters. Okay. So they just printed $1.73 in earnings. Consensus was $1.25.
Crazy.
That's what they guided to, $1.25. So when you think about the revenue beat, okay, it's $1.37 billion. That was also a beat. So revenues in fiscal 25 are supposed to go up 22%, 23% in 26, 22% in 27. That seems way too consistent. If you think about that, that's revenue. Okay. On the earnings front, you're seeing 40% plus expected earnings growth for the next 2 years, 33% in 27, trades at about 71 times this year, 47 times next, 28 times sales, 23 times next. So listen, the company is guiding and they're beating.
Yeah.
This is investors who are taking this stock up. Like
100%.
And let's do a day chart here
just
really
real
quickly.
Quick. So let's give them $7 billion of revenue, right? You want me to give them $7 billion next year?
Yeah. Do it.
That's $7 billion in revenue. In order to justify, in my opinion, $150 billion market cap, I mean, that number almost has to be 4 times what it's trading at.
Yeah.
Now you're going to say they're going to grow into it. Fine. They're going to grow into it. If they do grow into it, it doesn't mean the stock's going to go up in perpetuity.
If it fills in that gap today,
no good.
That's the all-time high. Go back to that 1-year chart for a second, because what's interesting about it, you see that reversal day, Guy, and I know we talk about other stocks that have reversal days like that. So it gapped up after its earnings, new high, trading, closed on the low. Next day, it had a big down day. I think that's interesting. The last thing I'll say about this is a company that came out of nowhere. In 2022, they had 55.5% gross margins. 23, they had 68% gross margins. 24 last year, 75% gross margins, expected to be near 83. Now, here's the deal. At a certain point, you can't get any more margin out of that business. So you're going to cap off at some point. Stock's really expensive. So again, we wouldn't buy it with your money. Let's see if it fills in that gap.
Now, this is the boomer in me.
Yeah, go ahead.
They should partner with like a McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, because
I'm loving it. That would be effing.
What would we call that if the two of them did something together?
A collab.
We call it a collab.
That would be, because then McDonald's gets this sort of cool hip generation, and AppLovin connects itself to a iconic U.S. brand. I'm sure there's somebody from McDonald's watching this right now.
So let's just call
Hold
Guy.
on. Compounding, call Guy. Compounding capital. Throw this question up, Amanda or Timmy. Guy, two-part. Oh, okay. Never ask a two-part question.
Let's come back to this in a second.
Oh, you want to come back to it? Okay.
So I just want to make one last point about the trade desk. Okay. So here's a company that expected to see a massive deceleration in earnings growth, guys. So this stock had a massive run. Let's put it a 5-year. Look at that gap. I mean, like, look at that gap. You don't see too many gaps like that. At its highs, I think this was like a $70 billion market cap company, and now it's down from 140 to 81.
August
you
low,
can do that math. It's nearly been cut in half. So big deceleration in earnings growth. Here's the problem I see, Guy. So last year, 32% earnings growth. This year, expected 5%. 2026 expected 26%. That number has to come down. Let's just right. So revenue growth last year was 26%. This year expected 19%, 20% next year. So it's trading at about 47 times this year, 14 times sales. Doesn't make sense.
Deceleration. Put that other chart up real quick. I mean, you see how long it took to make that move and how in one day you give the entire thing back.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that can happen in other names, you're just not paying attention. I mean, that's the stairs up, elevator down. That is classic. And that's the other side of growth. The other side of growth is that move right there.
All right. Should we get compound capital up again?
Put that question
Sorry about
up.
that. I just wanted to finish that.
It's fair. First of all, compound capital, don't ask two-part questions. Right or wrong. You've known me a long effing time. I have a question for you. Actually, it's a two-part question.
You hate it.
But by the time you get the second part out, the asshole that you're asking the question to forgot what the first part is. It happens all the time. This is what they'll say. Let me address the second part of that question first. And then they answer. They say, what was the first question again? Every single frickin' time.
You know what, though, Guy?
Yes or no, Bill? Am I wrong? It happens in sports all the time. Let me ask you. You played the Lafreniere line, and then you didn't play. So my question is, and then ask your first question and then follow up.
Okay. So the one thing I'd say about that is some folks who get asked two-part questions are absolutely maestros at it. You know who one person who's really good at it?
A maestro.
No, who answers the questions. Jerome Powell. So these guys get up when they're worried. When they're worried about not getting a follow-up, they ask two. That's the thing. And they do that on conference calls also. But Jerome Powell is so good. Sometimes he'll be like, let me address the second part of that question. And then he comes back and does the first.
He's a smart man.
He's a smart man. You know who else does that really well? A bunch of CEOs, like some of these tech CEOs, do it really well in these earnings calls. I'm just saying.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I'm not one of those people.
Okay.
So ask me two friggin' questions.
Yeah.
Been buying Intel at 19. How would you play the breakout? Good question. Now, we have actually pointed out, now I've been wrong about this as long, but recently we traded down the levels we saw in September of last year.
Mm-hmm.
We said, this looks like an interesting entry point. I've been saying incorrectly that Intel is going to be a homeland security play. JD Vance recently, the reason why the stock is rallying
in the United States
is because of the commentary he's making. We're right up against a huge level of resistance. So this is what you do, compound or CC. You take profits here. You take something off. Take off half your position. Give yourself some optionality. You want to buy it. I think if it gets back down to 22.5, you buy it back, or you buy it on the breakout above 25, above that prior high that we saw in November. That's how I would trade it.
Yeah, just to be clear, that's how Guy would trade it. That is not
investment. I'm not saying.
I'm saying that is not investment advice. That's not what we do.
Do we need
here.
that? Do we need that? What do they call those things?
Yeah, sometimes
disclaimer.
I think we should.
No, it's not. It's
not investment.
It's
advice.
not investment advice.
It's how you would.
It's how I would trade it.
Yes. Okay.
Looking at Pepsi double bottom. I mean, this is like what you scared you got. It's like Dan said, you weren't going to get a follow up. Like Amanda was going to shut you out. I mean, holy shit. I don't see. Oh, I see what you're looking at. You're seeing at the same low that we made in January. This is what I'll say about those types of double. The longer the duration, the more powerful the double bottom. This happened a month or so ago, so I'm not that inclined yet. However, I see what you're looking at. I'll also say this: that little island reversal we saw in the sort of early January is no bueno. So I'd give this one a couple more days. It probably bounced on the Coca-Cola report.
Yeah.
But I'm I'd walk with some trepidation.
Make that a 5-year for a second. Again, this is
past results are right?
Yeah. Past results are not
whatever future.
So one of the things that's interesting, Guy, about Pepsi, didn't this always used to trade at a premium
because
to the
market? Had snacks.
Yeah,
because they had like Fritos and all that stuff. So in the world where people were getting fat with snacks, like Pepsi wins.
Yeah.
In the world of GLP-1s, Pepsi loses. In a world where this guy just got
whacked.
No, not whacked. RFK Jr. is going to now be. That doesn't work for Pepsi and these companies either. Make America healthy again? Well, guess what, Pepsi? You're not the healthiest company out there.
That would truly be amazing if this guy was able to really kind of get some framework around, sodas and snacks and all the stuff that goes into these things. Because, past like first ladies who've kind of taken this stuff on have been absolutely lambasted. It was kind of like a lib thing to do.
Think about Mayor Bloomberg.
No, I know. Remember that? Like he wanted to get rid of the big gulps.
And you know what? Good for him. Like who needs a friggin' big gulp?
I know,
what the F are you doing?
But it used to be
And first of all, it's not a big gulp. A gulp is like, this is a gulp. Like if I could drink this, that's a gulp. That thing is like a big heart attack waiting to happen. Like big clog my arteries.
So
who goes and buys that shit?
Not sponsors, but this is LaCroix.
Now we are,
and you're in the Spindrift. You're drinking the Spindrift.
Yeah,
these are different. No, they're the same thing, but they're just like.
Because I like raspberry lime. So you put these two flavors together, and you have magic.
Should we throw a little
risk reversal? Brought to you by it's
Spindrift.
It's not
LaCroix.
I'm kidding.
You throw a little vodka in there, Guy, maybe a little fruit, and you got yourself a nice little drink. You know what I mean? You know what that is? That's the high noon. Isn't that what that is? By the way,
I'm sure Amanda's pissed off right now.
Do we cover most?
Amanda's
of the things?
Probably left. You want to bet Amanda left?
All right. Couple things. I just want to do a little housekeeping.
Please.
We did the market matrix. Please go sign up for that. We got a really good following. We've been doing it probably about 6 months or so. It's growing.
Remember when we did it? I used to say it's week 7.
I do remember. You know why I used to get it wrong, and you were like emphatic, and you were right about the timing.
Speaking.
Yeah. Really?
No.
So the other thing is the On the Tape podcast and OK Computer podcast. OK Computer was our tech podcast. On the Tape was just our general markets podcast. We kind of rebranded. We didn't kind of rebrand. We did rebrand. It's the Risk Reversal podcast. Guy and I do it 5 days a week, Monday through Thursday. We are trying to keep it really tight to 30 minutes and under. We're doing our same market commentary. We start the week off with Liz Thomas of SoFi. We do a look ahead. On Tuesdays, we usually do a tech pod. I'll have Gene Munster or Deirdre Bosa or Rick Heitzman or some folks like that. Wednesday, you and I, we might take a guest. It might just be the two of us. On Thursday, we'll focus on tech again. And then on Fridays, what are we doing on Friday? We have a big strategist or something like that.
A strategist, a little longer form. Tomorrow, our conversation with Stephanie Link of Hightower.
Yep, that's right.
Is going to drop.
Yeah, so that'd be fun. So that's Risk Reversal podcast, 5 days a week. If you don't follow it already, go to the podcast store.
Why wouldn't you? By the way, thank you for getting us over 100,000 YouTube.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
By the way, Bill texted me. You seem like a guy that spit on your hand before you shook with another guy to seal the deal. Now, I don't know what that means. I will tell you what I did do in high school.
Yeah.
Playing hoop, just to freak people out.
Hooping it up.
If I'm on the foul line, I would blow my nose in my jersey. I would take it out of my shorts, blow my nose in my jersey.
What did you take out of your shorts?
My jersey.
Oh, I got it. Oh, and just use it like that?
Yeah.
So you know what lacrosse we used to do? Because you have a helmet on.
Hey, try to get the loogies to hang off the my face. I used to try to get that.
Do a farmer's blow into the field.
I did all kinds of shit.
But that wasn't trying to like intimidate.
I was trying to get into
anybody.
people's head.
Yeah.
Like that guy's a freak.
Yeah. When you just brought up Will Frost, you were trying to find a British person. You know what I mean? Like he comes first to mind for you.
Yeah. Why? Should somebody else?
I don't know.
Should that Prince Harry guy? That guy, by the way, he's in deep shit. Like you can tell, like he's going down. And I'm sure you're watching Harry.
Why?
And I apologize. No, he left the royal family, moved to LA. Like he's losing right now, and I feel bad for him.
Why? Is anything recently?
His wife is she's no bueno. The one that was in that movie or the show. What was it? Suits or something.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know who she is. It's
like I feel bad.
Meghan Markle.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah. You think that she was the bad influence?
100%.
Well, by the way, about 15 years ago, there was a picture of him at what they call a fancy dress party in the United Kingdom, and he was dressed as Adolf Hitler.
Come on.
He literally went dressed as Adolf Hitler.
He's got to know better than that.
Well,
there's nothing funny about that.
Nothing funny about that. By the way, he wrote a book, and I didn't read it, and this was
Nobody
a couple
else
years
did
ago.
either.
Well, he was like a grunt in the.
No,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
the Royal Air Force or
No,
I think it was like in whatever their army is or whatever. And he just embedded himself. He was just like a regular guy. Yeah. So,
but
so your point is, it is this woman
he's
he's
raging against. It happens all the time here.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no royalty here.
Yeah.
But people that are sort of sick of their parents or something, and they're going to do something to piss them off. I'm going to date the worst person possible to piss you off.
Why did you ever do that?
And then no. And then they realize, you know what? Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I think he's coming to that realization. So if you want to come on the podcast, Harry, come on over.
Yeah.
No? Dan is like, my God.
They did a big deal with
who's they?
They did a deal with Spotify for like
the wife, husband, and wife.
Yeah.
And who's listening to that?
You
know who's not listening to it?
You.
His old man. By the way, think about his father.
He's a king.
The king.
Yeah.
His wife, Princess Diana, was a rocket.
Yeah.
No, I
just explain that for a second.
She was hot as shit. No, she was. Am I wrong? Well, I can't say that.
In like an 80s sort of way. Yeah.
No, she was a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
He leaves her. Jacob, do you have a picture of the current betrothed? I mean, she is like a bridge troll. Like this, it just goes to show you, man. No,
what's a bridge troll? A troll that lives under
the bridge.
Why do trolls live under bridges?
Where else are they going to live?
In a hole.
I don't understand what he's like. What are you thinking? Camilla Parker Bowles.
Oh yeah. She's probably like smart, and maybe she's witty and funny. You know what I mean?
Diana was smart and witty and hot.
Yeah.
This woman, I don't know if she's smart or witty. You know what I do know? She's not hot.
So, by the way, Guy's cracking up Bill Hockman, who is
Bill's a comedian.
He is a comedian, which is pretty interesting. All right, should we get out of here?
Somebody just texted. Yeah, we can go.
All right.
Listen, Stephanie Link tomorrow.
Yeah,
and we should mention this as well. People are saying, "Where's Danny Moses?"
Oh,
Danny just launched, or not, I don't want to say relaunched, but he has taken the On the Tape podcast,
correct,
and has made it his own. So you're going to hear him with people like Vinny and Porter, Steve.
They had
Meredith
one
Whitney.
drop yesterday on the tape. So go to your favorite podcast store, search for the On the Tape podcast, follow it, and you're going to get Danny Moses once a week with a great group of guests, and they're going to be talking long form conversations about some stuff. Our stuff generally a bit more market oriented, more actionable, intended.
Me going off the rails,
right? So Danny Moses On the Tape. Go follow it in your podcast store.
Can we set aside 5 minutes every day for Guy to call people ugly? Yes. Not everybody. I'm not saying I'm attractive.
That was Hockman.
I am not. This is, by the way, I'm not making any comments about me. There are people there are people in the world that are attractive, and there are people in the world that are not. Jacob, do you have she is not attractive. How did she insert her way into this royal family? Through Princess Diana.
Right.
Makes no sense.
I think, wasn't it the deal that he basically had this relationship on the side all along? He didn't want to marry her. I haven't watched The Crown. Did you watch The Crown?
No, I don't watch The Crown.
Supposedly it's like historically, so he will be in another iteration of it.
Wolf's friends with all those people.
Yeah, he went to Eton or something like that.
There's some like elite schools out there.
All right, Diaz said we got to go.
Why?
Because we have to
link
record.
Is in 10 minutes. Got to go. Wrap it now. Okay. I'm just reading what people I'm like the person that reads what's in the
What
teleprompter.
wall did you just break, Guy?
I don't know.
On Fast Money the other night, Guy goes, "Well, I'm going to break the 9th wall here," and we're all looking at him like,
"Well, Jason Gewirtz, who's a producer, he's one of the top producers at CNBC.
Yeah,
he texted me during the show, and one of the graphics looked like that game Simon.
Correct.
I'm like, holy shit, it does.
Yes.
So Mel, it's like, what are you doing? I said,
by the way, that was horrible. So we love Katie Stockton.
Yeah.
She put a chart up that it was charting the market. It was black background.
Very difficult.
Like it was like different colors and different things. It was brutal.
Yeah.
I've never seen a worse chart on Fast Money in all the years I've been doing.
But when people I often will say,
so if you were in a room with 5 walls, what would you call that?
Huh? 5 walls?
Yeah.
I'd call it like it isn't the Oval Office set. Well, it's oval, so it doesn't have any walls.
Wow.
It has a round wall.
The Pentagon has 5 walls.
Pent.
Yeah. All right, we should
I think that's more than that.
We got to rest our voices for a few minutes.
All right, I've had fun. Timmy, Amanda, Jacob, Bill, anybody else that's listening. I apologize. Camilla, if you're watching.
Harry is a avid viewer.
You know, you say that he might be watching right now. This might be his everything turns for him from this point because somebody's acknowledging and he's saying himself, you know what? He's right. He's effing right.
Yeah. All right, peeps. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the Risk Reversal podcast. We'll be back on Monday, Guy and myself at 1:00 Eastern. We're gonna have some good announcements next week, Guy, about the market call. So,
we always do.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. See ya. Thanks.